Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to do an oil change on my 2013 Mk6 Volkswagen GTI. The engine that it has in it is a TSI engine. If you know a little bit more about these engines, it has a CCTA. They can also have a CBTA. So yeah, let's get started. So obviously I have a lift, and most people are not going to have a lift. What you're going to need to do is get a floor jack and jack it up right here, and then put some jack stands underneath it. Okay? Now, as far as things that you're going to need, you will need one of these catch buckets. Like I said, I'm kind of spoiled. I've got one of these. I'll roll it underneath the car. Pretty simple. As far as tools and replacement oil and whatnot, you're going to need obviously oil. This is Castrol. I got it from Volkswagen. I got the filter from Volkswagen. Depending on the dealership you go to, they may give you a drain plug. And then at the end of the job, you're going to need some brake cleaner, because you're going to want to clean off residual oil left around the drain plug area. And then when you're filling it up, you're going to need a little funnel. You can do it without it. It just makes it a little bit easier. I've got a rag and some gloves, trying to stay clean. And then as far as tools, you're going to need a torque wrench. If you don't have one, I'd recommend getting one. The job can be done without it. You can just snug it up, but this is the correct way to do it. You're going to need a 17 wrench or a ratchet with a 17 socket. And then you're going to need some oil filter pliers or a oil filter cup. Most of you probably won't have this. You may or may not have this, but you can get this at a parts store or a tool store. Very common. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. First thing you want to do is you want to get the engine to operating temperature. You want as much of that oil as possible thinning out and getting to the bottom of the engine, so that when you pull the drain plug, you get as much as you can out. Okay? So I've already got mine running. It's probably already up to operating temperature. Okay, so you're going to want to look right here, and it's going to be at 190. And mine is the operating temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off, put it in park or put it in first gear. And then I'm going to go ahead and lift the vehicle up. And this would be where you need the jack stands and the floor jack. Okay. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to take the cover off of the engine. You just kind of lift it up. Pretty simple. Next thing you want to do is you want to take off the cap. I like to take this rubber piece off, catch any leaves or anything that might be right here, and I like to take it with it. Okay? Next thing you're going to want to do is just lift this line up very gently. You don't want to break this, because this will break. Pull the dipstick, and then go get your oil filter plier or your cup. I'm going to use the cup because that's what I have. Makes it easier. Okay, so you just go ahead and do this. The reason I'm doing the oil filter first is because when I break this loose, there's a valve, and when I loosen that valve up, it lets some oil down into the engine, into the oil pan. Okay. So I break that loose, I give it a second, and what it's doing right now is it's draining. I apologize for the noise, I'm not the only one in the shop. Okay. So I'll go ahead and pull that off. Now there is a torque spec. I don't know it off the top of my head. When I put the filter back on, it doesn't take a lot. I just snug it up with my hand, okay? You don't need to, Hercules it, just snug. Okay. Now you want to tilt it just a little bit. There's going to be a little oil that you want to drop right down in that hole. And then you just flip it. And that's it. Now I'm going to have to knock that off. And that's it. Okay. And this is one of the easiest oil changes out there, honestly. There's not really much to it. Okay, so I'm gonna have to grab a 13 wrench because I have an aftermarket magnetic drain plug, but for you guys, you would want to use a 17 or ratchet with a 17 socket. Okay, now this drain plug is at 30 Newton meters, so it's not super tight, but tight enough. Okay, so you just break that loose, and this is where you're going to want to grab, you know, your catch bucket and put it underneath the drain plug. Now this oil is going to be hot, so this is, this is where you want to kind of be careful. You want to get your hand out of the way, you know, as soon as possible. Now for me, I'm going to have to kind of give it a little tug because it's got a magnet on it and it likes to stick. If you guys want me to do another video on magnetic drain plugs, I will be happy to do so. Just let me know in the comments. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to do this until it goes to a fast drip. It doesn't take too long. It takes maybe five or so minutes. Hey guys, I just want to make this clip real quick. The camera angle that I had was not the best in the last few steps. So if you're underneath the vehicle and you're looking forward, this is the transmission drain plug. This is a manual transmission, so that's what it looks like. If you have a automatic transmission, there's going to be a black pan right here. You don't want to get it confused with the oil pan. You don't want to pull a little drain plug that would be over here. This is the oil pan. It's pretty much in the middle, a little over to the right on the passenger side. So just a short version of what I did in the few scenes that you couldn't really see is I took my wrench and I broke the loose. Counterclockwise is lefty-loosey, so I broke that loose. I pulled the drain plug out, let it drain into my catch bucket, and then I let it drip. I let it go until it was a fast drip. And then what I did is I took my new drain plug and I put it in, and I took my torque wrench and I tightened it up to 30 Newton meters. After that, what I did is I took my brake cleaner and I just sprayed it off for a second, and then I took my rag and wiped it down. And basically that's all I did underneath that you couldn't really see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get my torque wrench ready. Okay, and the torque spec for a drain plug on this engine is 30 Newton meters. And then you take your torque wrench and you're going to want to torque it to 30 Newton meters. Okay. And then you take your brake cleaner, just get some of that residual oil off. Doesn't take a whole lot. Wipe it down. The reason you do this is so that if your drain plug is leaking, you don't think it's just residual oil. You know it's something leaking. And I have seen drain plugs leak, so you may not know now because there's not much oil in it and there's no pressure behind it, but you put the oil in and then that's when you will figure out if your drain plug's leaking. Okay, so go ahead and take your drain bucket away. And then you come and get your oil filter and your rag. And what I'll do is I'll clean up some of that dirt right around there. Try not to push it into the flange. I'll push it kind of away to the side. And if I see any dirt in there, you know, I'll try to get it out with my finger. And then I'll just take a little dab of this oil and lubricate the O-ring or the gasket. Okay. And then this part's pretty simple. You just take it, lower it down on there. Don't force it because you don't want to cross thread it, but then you just spin it on. And you can pretty much do this all the way by hand. Okay. Now it doesn't take a lot. I just give it a little snug. Okay. And that's it. And then you're going to want to push this back down on there. Be careful not to break it. And then you grab your funnel. Make sure it's clean. Mine is not. Okay. And then you'll take it and you'll put it right down in that little hole. Grab your oil. And this engine takes 4.9 quarts. Now 4.9 will put it right in the middle of the dipstick safe area. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put all 5 in. Sometimes I will even take another quart that I don't have here right now, and I'll just top it off until it's at the very top of that safe mark. So you go ahead and take your oil, one at a time obviously. And then I like to give it a little shake, mix up all the additives in there. Some people say, you know, you shouldn't shake it, you're gonna make it bubble. Well, I disagree, because there are additives that need to be shaken up, and what this engine's about to do to this oil is much more intense than me just giving it a little shake. So give it a little shake. And then you just pour it in. I like to call this stuff liquid gold. Okay. And then just keep repeating. And then you just take your rag and put it underneath the filter so you don't drop any oil on your engine. And then I'll take this, and if there's anything stuck to it, you know, just kind of break it free. Maybe give it a little blow. And put it right back on there. Push the dipstick down. If you don't push that down, you'll leak unmetered air, and that's when you'll get a check engine light. Take your oil cap, put your oil cap back on. Take the engine cover, put it back on. It's got 4 little grommets. So you just want to make sure that those snap back on. Doesn't take a lot of pressure, you know, just. Okay. And then the next step is to make sure that the vehicle is on a level surface. Okay. Now what you want to do is you want to start the engine so that you can get all the oil back up to the top of the engine and circulating. And then what you do is you shut the engine off, and then you check your oil level. And you just want to let it run for about 10 to 15 seconds, just enough for the oil to get circulating. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to wipe off the dipstick and then stick it back down in real quick and then pull it up. And if you look very carefully, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that says max, as in maximum amount, and that says minimum. And the maximum, it's right on. So 5 quarts is just about what you need. Now, from my experience, I like to do my oil changes every 5,000 miles because I just don't believe that oil is meant for 10,000 miles. So I do it every 5,000 miles. In that 5,000 mile interval, I typically burn about half a quart. This engine has 90,000 miles on it. I've never had any leaks, no issues whatsoever with oil. As far as timing chain, I replaced that at 70,000 just out of a known issue that these things have, and I did it out of paranoia. Was it still okay? Yeah, it was. I think the oil did a lot with that. So that's pretty much it, you guys. That is an oil change on a 2013 Mk6 Volkswagen GTI. This is the TSI engine, CCTA or CBFA. If you guys want me to make any more videos, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you know of anybody that you think this would benefit and would help them out, help them save some money, and they can't afford to go to the dealership, please tell them about it. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it, you guys. Peace.